Welcome back. In order to avoid a nationwide showdown and industrial action by nurses across the country, that's why we're having this conversation. The registrar of the council has just finished telling us their side of the story. Now we're being joined by the nurses themselves here in the studio. I'm being joined by the chairman, National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, Lagos State Chapter, Comrade Christiana Adeboboye. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
I'm sure you heard everything he said.
Yes, I did.
As well as the reasons he posited as why the regulator that they are, or the council that they are, is doing this to ensure that for them is standardization, if I want to paraphrase what he has said. Standardization so that we don't get embarrassed abroad and so that everybody has an opportunity to do what they want. And he even mentioned towards the end of his thought that it mustn't take up to 2 years, as said. So I don't know what your initial reaction will be to what you heard from him.
Well, thank you so much. And then let me start by thanking the registrar for taking out time to do a lot of explanations on the policy. However, I want to make it known that I am representing the interests of nurses. And basically, the policy is not welcomed by all nurses. The generality of nurses are not happy because of this new policy, because it's not friendly at all to us. And looking at issues attached to the policy, you see that there are lots of challenges, there are lots of constraints, there are lots of, like caging the nurses the way we can't see it. Obviously, nurses do migrate from time to time for greener pastures. But recently, the migration is really high because of the present situation and because of, I want to get a better way of living. I need something better than what I am. So I think that irrespective of whatever is happening, we should look inward and see how it can be better, as in make it better for nurses, make nursing attractive to them, making practicing in Nigeria a wonderful experience for us.
For him, from what I heard, is sounding like, the registrar now on behalf of the council, is sounding like this is not anti-progress, but if you have to live the right way. Is that what you heard, or you heard something else?
I heard him say that, but it is harsh. The policy is really harsh on us. Harsh because nurses that are traveling abroad, they are trained here. Looking at the policy itself, what does it entail? What is inside the guideline? One of the things that the first thing, starting from the process itself, the non-refundable fee. You pay a non-refundable fee, which was reviewed 2 years back and even reviewed now.
How much?
Over about 100,000 now. Why will you pay that?
Oh, it's up to 100 now.
Yes. Why would you pay that?
It should be less than 50,000 before.
Obviously, it should be. But why will you pay that with a body that actually certifies you? You have passed through the training, you have passed through their tests, their examinations, and you scaled through, and you are certified. So if you have to verify your license, it's just for people you are engaging you to know that yes, truly, you were trained and certified by this body. So it shouldn't be all that expensive, and so it's not welcome. Also looking at it, saying that you have to get a good letter of standing from a CEO, a medical CEO, who is not a nurse practitioner. That is really barbaric.
I thought he said someone you had worked with or a supervisor, someone you had worked under.
The truth of the matter is that you work under somebody who is your professional. It is your own professional line that mentors you. So when you work with someone who has been a mentor to you or who has been your supervisor, that means you have worked persistently or continuously with your own professional, colleague, and that is the right person to at least give you a letter of good standing. There are other issues around it. If you want to go that way, what will happen to the nurses? We are not looking at the challenges they will face. We are not looking at the troubles that will come out of this singular, decision.
So
then okay.
Go ahead, land on that thought.
Okay. So let's look at the timing. The timing of, this 6 months verification exercise. No, verification exercise should be seamless. It should come up within the next 48 hours. Obviously, you have all my documents with you. And probably I'm in the UK, or I'm here about to go to UK, and the organization I'm going to work with requests that I should, get this done. Without any stress. The council has digitalized all the process. They have all their processes digitalized. So it shouldn't take them much time to do that. And then saying that your license should be at least 6 months before expiration or this and that. See, all this bureaucracy will not help the system. It will not help nurses. It will not help Nigeria as a whole.
But comrade,
okay.
Pardon me there. The head of the council also said that, look, this is in line with best practices, that as a matter of fact, in some of the countries where our nurses are migrating to, there are more verifications, so to speak, in the form of documentations required of practitioners in the field. So if that is the case, perhaps one could say that what the council is doing is not necessarily out of place. Well,
if he said that, I will agree that the countries that does that, as in they have their own process, and it is not as harsh as this. Verification, yes, is necessary. We are not saying it's not necessary. We are saying that it is necessary for everyone that has been trained by a professional body. You have to verify your certificate. But then the process. Let's look inward. The process, the timing, the costs.
So I'm looking at the circular now from the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria, dated February the 7th, 2024. We talked about these revised guidelines for verification of certificates with the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. And the third, you talked about the non-refundable fee, which is huge for you at this point. The third and fourth points, it appears the registrar has made some clarifications, or maybe there's been some amendments to this regulation. So the third one says eligible applicants must have a minimum of 2 years post-qualification experience from the date of issuance. But right here on the show, he says it doesn't have to be 2 years. So it looks like first there's been some change to that one. It's not official yet, but he said that. I don't know if you heard him say that.
Well, I heard him.
You heard him?
Yes. But then...
Is that cheering for you? Are you happy about that, maybe?
Well, that would be good. That would be a good one. Because what we have in the policy or the guideline is that 2 years.
Which is what I just read right now.
It is not friendly. Because 2 years is a long time. This is a nurse who has gone through the training and then had internship. You have done your internship, and then you are not expected to, wait for another 2 years. We have a year in internship after the training, and then you are already working somewhere. So obviously you should have the grace or the ability to move ahead.
So in your wisdom is now 3 years technically. What I mean is, if we work by the 2 years they stipulate plus your 1 year internship.
That's 3 years, obviously.
That's the argument you have.
That's 3 years, obviously.
So the fourth one, which again, it appears as though there's been an amendment on air.
It should be.
It says the council shall request a letter of good standing from the CEOs, but he said someone you worked under. So it may be a professional, senior colleague.
Yes,
chief matron.
that is better.
That is better.
That is better.
So it doesn't have to necessarily be a CEO.
Yes.
And he said that, and I'm sure you heard that. But speak to the point, because a lot of people have raised concerns, and that is the balance we're seeking to get in this conversation. Obviously, we have a challenge with our health sector. We've called it brain drain for obvious reasons. We know the economic situation. A lot of people seeking that greener pasture. Whether or not the pasture is really green is another thing entirely. But we have a challenge on our hands. We don't have enough health workers in the country. And the challenge is, so what will happen if everybody just ups and leaves? What will happen to the people here? Our health needs in Nigeria. He says that, how many people left last year?
43,000 in 3 years. And last year alone, 15,000. I had to make him so that I'll be sure I had him.
Yeah. So are you concerned about that? Isn't that a challenge? Because we know the nurse to patient ratio in Nigeria is abysmal. It's not what it should be naturally. Is that something you're also worried about?
Very much. We are so much worried about that. But let me also ask this question before I go to answer the main question. Why are they leaving? Have we looked inward to ask ourselves, why are nurses migrating en masse? They are migrating because they needed greener pastures. And so, if we are going to do anything to retain nurses, we should improve the working condition and the package given to nurses.
But can the government ever pay up to £2,000 that people earn in the UK?
Why not, if not?
Wow, that's like what? Almost
perhaps you should give us a step-by-step, a breakdown of the working conditions that you're dissatisfied with as nurses.
The hours of working generally, you have to work 40 hours per week. Sometimes you do more than that here.
I think that's an average of 8 a day, right?
8 hours a day. And because of the shortages, you have to, compensate that and that. But looking at these working conditions, because you are really, I would say, critically short-staffed. We are critically short-staffed. You find a nurse taking care of, in charge of 32 patients at a time.
One nurse?
One nurse to 32, and the ratio is even high. But when you go to inside the world, you see most times you see one nurse to 32 patients or more.
What's the standard?
Well, the global standard should be 1 to 7.
Oh, wow.
Where you have a good standing, it should be 1 to 4.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
yeah.
So now he said there's no going back on the policy if I heard him right. Your association have threatened that if nothing is done, there's going to be an industrial action. Let's find a meeting point. What will be that meeting point when you go to the negotiation table? What can be done for you guys so at least avoid already bad situation in the country?
Well, thank you so much for that question. I will say that the national body of NANNM is responsible for that. We are just the branch. Lagos is a branch under the national body, so the national team will do the negotiation on our behalf. And we expect that all our requests should be met.
We would like to know what those requests are, which is exactly my question, because the national body will aggregate what the concerns are.
Whatever we have said. Okay, Thank you so much. Number one thing is that we want this policy to be abolished. Like I told you, I represent the interests of nurses. We want the policy to be abolished or reviewed. That is the first thing. And when you pick each of the contents of the policy, starting from the non-refundable fee, the timing, the licensing process, you see that everything under it is what we are actually agitating for. So we shouldn't pay as much as that. Even if we are going to pay money, we expected that verification process should be free. Should be free in the sense that a nurse who has passed through the training, paid for indexing, paid for licensing, paid for everything, and you got your certificate, by now verification should be free. And if it's not going to be free, please let the price be reasonable and affordable.
All right.
And also, we expect that for this policy, the 2 years post-qualification, like he said, has been reviewed. Yes, we expect a better say. One thing is that nurses are trained by their parents or individuals sponsor them. So there's no need to oppress them. There's no need to hinder, their mobility. So your grievance is, since it's not state-sponsored, don't control my aspirations. Because it has created a lot of international mobility, career mobility. You cannot move from one place to the other.
We must thank you so much for coming on the program. That means
I still have a few points.
No, we got time. You can just give us one more. Just one more. 30 seconds.
1 or 2. I think more production of nurses will help us a lot.
Okay.
More schools should be accredited, more universities accredited to, to run the nursing course, and also the government should improve the package, like I said earlier, and then the Nursing and Midwifery Council Board should be reinstated.
When you say reinstated, how do you mean?
Presently, we don't have a governing board.
Okay.
So the government should please.
Well, a lot of Nigerians are interested in this conversation. It's their health. Yeah, and I see this one, Yomi D on X saying, using Ikorodu General Hospital as a yardstick to measure the KPI of Nigerian nurses, then more training is required. Nigerian nurses are not different from caregivers who abuse their patients in the UK. And then he goes on. And I think this talks to training. Tom Platter says, Nursing and Midwifery Council, he believes I've never been on the side of nurses. And it says that there is no love. So clearly, a lot of people are concerned about this, and we hope that the very best comes out.
Absolutely. We hope that there's not going to be an industrial action that shuts down this entire system. Already we're dealing with a lot as a country, and we don't want to add that to the situation. So that's I was asking you what can be done to find a middle ground between the council and the association. Thank you, Christiana Adeboboye, the Chairman, National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, Lagos State Chapter, for coming on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, we will now switch gears when we come back. There was an incident in Kano State where the government actually went to warehouses alleging that commodities were being hoarded. That's the conversation we're going to have next on the program. Join us again.